Dr. Mohammed Mossadegh was a lawyer, professor, author, governor, member of parliament, finance minister, foreign minister, and a democratically elected prime minister of Iran. Mossadegh fought both internal corruption and foreign interference. He enacted social reforms and nationalized the Iranian oil industry. Hello and welcome to the Global Cultural Drift podcast. Geopolitical Queen here with today's episode on the former Iranian Prime Minister, Dr. Mohammed Mossadegh, who was removed from office by the US and the British through a coup for daring to nationalize the Iranian oil industry. In 1953, Mossadegh was overthrown by a British-American coup. He was arrested and tried as a traitor in a military tribunal court. It was the CIA's first successful dismantling of a foreign government, and Iran has not known peace since then. In December 1953, Dr. Mohammed Mossadegh, the 71-year-old ex-premier of Iran, received the final verdict in a military court which tried him for treason and gave him 3 years of solitary imprisonment. Mossadegh was released at the end of his prison term in 1956 and returned to his village of Ahmadabad, which is 60 miles west of Tehran. The following day, several hooligans gathered in front of his house and yelled insults against him. The incident was almost certainly a ploy by the government to bring in 24 military personnel for his alleged protection. According to Mossadegh, after a coup d'etat in Iraq, the authorities doubled the military unit assigned to him and barred him from leaving the confines of his home. From then on, he was only visited by his wife and close family members, mainly on Fridays for a few hours. During these intervals, however, Mossadegh suffered from intense loneliness, which worsened considerably with the passing of his beloved wife in 1965. Other than the isolation of a permanent house arrest, Mossadegh had no major problem until mid-autumn 1966, when he noticed a swelling on the left side of his face and a painful blister on the roof of his mouth. When Mossadegh's physician son, Ghulam Hussein, learned about this, he arranged for Dr. Ismail Yazdi, a young maxillofacial surgeon who was also trained as a pathologist, to visit his father in Ahmadabad. Upon meeting Dr. Yazdi, the young doctor told Mossadegh that he once had the honor of meeting the premier as a student representative. Mossadegh paused for a moment and then asked, "Doctor, when you saw me before, were you satisfied with your visit?" When Dr. Yazdi replied in the affirmative, Mossadegh responded wryly, Now I can safely open my mouth for examination. Dr. Yadzi suspected a malignant tumor in the roof of his mouth and proceeded to biopsy the area under local anesthesia. As he was saving the malignant tumor in the gums and roof of his mouth and proceeded to biopsy the area under local anesthesia, he decided to give himself some time to go through this treatment. Saying goodbye, he told Mossadegh that he hoped to return next week with good news about the biopsy result. Dr. Mossadegh replied, quote, "I hope it's cancer. I'm tired of this loneliness and life," quote ended. Days later, Dr. Yadzi made the diagnosis of transition cell carcinoma, TCC, a rare malignancy of the paranasal cynosis. This was confirmed also by Dr. Kamal Amin, a prominent professor of pathology at the Tehran University. According to Dr. Yadzi, when he informed Dr. Mossadegh of his cancer, to his surprise, he showed no sign of distress. Dr. Mossadegh agreed to go to Tehran for a thorough evaluation, but to leave Ahmedabad required permission from the Shah himself. This was accomplished when Professor Yahya Adil, the famous surgeon and a close friend of the Shah, intervened in the matter. It was then that Dr. Mossadegh was taken to Tehran and admitted in Najmiya Hospital, a charity facility established by his mother years before. Due to his advanced and highly aggressive tumor, the 84-year-old Mossadegh was not a candidate for surgery even if it was technically possible. With no prospect for any possibility for a cure, the reasonable option for Mossadegh was to receive supportive care, mainly consisting of pain management and nutritional support. Considering the slow rate of his tumor, he could have potentially lived like this for another year or so. However, things took a turn at the Najmiya Hospital when another surgeon proceeded to obtain a biopsy from Mossadegh's sinus area against Dr. Yazi's advice. Dr. Yazi, who personally witnessed the painful procedure in the role of the pathologist, later recalled, the quote, "The memory of his suffering and heartbreaking screams has never left me," unquote. According to Gholam Hussein, no one was allowed to visit his father in the hospital, and he refused his children's offers to fly him to Europe for treatment or bring physicians from abroad. After being discharged, Mossadegh began receiving cobalt radiation therapy at the Mir Hospital under the care of Dr. Ahmed Fahad, a radiologist and a one-time chancellor of the Tehran University. Clearly, the administration of high-dose radiation therapy was ill-advised, as the tumor was resistant to radiation and the treatment was associated with painful inflammation of the mucosal lining of the mouth and throat. To counter this, Mossadegh received large doses of analgesics, which caused him to vomit blood. He also developed enlarged lymph glands in his neck, which caused such tremendous pain that he only had to scream in agony. Meanwhile, Mossadegh took consolation in writing letters as much as he could. He wrote one to a close friend saying, quote, "I am still not well, and I'm suffering from the radiation, which has worsened my condition. I have no choice but to obey the doctors and see what the will of God is for me," unquote. Unfortunately, Dr. Mossadegh's condition deteriorated further when he developed pneumonia and a life-threatening blood infection, for which he was readmitted to the Njamia Hospital again. Soon afterwards, he fell into a coma. At dawn on March 5th, 1967, Dr. Mossadegh passed away, primarily due to complications of his cancer therapy. He was denied a funeral by the Shah and was buried in his living room, despite his request to be buried in the public graveyard beside the victims of the political violence, so as not to prevent a political furor. On August 19, 2013, the CIA publicly admitted for the first time its involvement in the 1953 coup against Iran's elected Prime Minister, Dr. Mohammed Mossadegh. The CIA is quoted acknowledging that the coup was carried out under CIA direction and as an act of U.S. foreign policy, conceived and approved at the highest levels of government. U.S. officials expressed regret about the coup, but have fallen short of issuing an official apology. The British government, however, has never acknowledged its role. This is the story of an elected Prime Minister of a sovereign country who was overthrown and died in isolation because America and Britain thinks that it is their right to impose puppets on sovereign countries to extend their foreign policies for their interests, but not for the people of the said countries. Well, kindly share your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will be back with the next broadcast. Good day.